It's Wednesday night at 7 Eastern. As soon as you hear those words, you know what the deal is. It's time to hear from Cam Underwood from State of the U right here on Hurricanes Live at the Voice of College Football. Tonight we are simulcasting for a number of reasons on the main channel. So folks that just check us out on the main channel and check out our videos, live streams, and other content on the main channel. Keep in mind that we do this every Wednesday night with Cam at 7 o'clock Eastern time on the Miami channel. So head on over there and please subscribe. Cam, what's going on tonight?
Not a whole lot, man. Good to be here. I guess we're on the main channel, so on the big stage. But I'm always ready for a big stage. So guys are in for a show, and we'll have a good time.
Absolutely. So we all know what the deal is in regards to National Signing Day. 4 of 100 top players. Looking at the top 196 had already signed before today, but the big fish, Nicholas Harbor, chose South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And I posted some other videos concerning top cornerback for the 2024 cycle chooses Georgia, and another top cornerback in this year's class chose Oregon. But that Nicholas Harbor and his athleticism is going to be something to track and watch in college football going forward.
Yeah, and all 3 of those guys that you mentioned were on the radar for Miami. That'd be Roderick Pleasant from Southern California, who committed to Oregon. Ellis Robertson, the 4th from IMG Academy for the next year's class, 2024's class, is a major Miami target. Obviously, we had 4 guys from IMG in this current class. And yes, he committed to Georgia, but Miami's not going to stop recruiting him because that he committed today for next year. And then obviously at the top, Nicholas Harbor, everybody's All-American, 6'5", I don't know what he is now, 225, 230. He's the track star. He's a runner. I said the line backwards, darn shucks. Anyways, but yeah, 10-2 in the 100, 20 point whatever in the 200. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. He can play anywhere with that kind of speed. He's like, if he were to quit football and focus on track, he's a legit Olympic hopeful. In both the 100 and 200. That's the kind of speed this kid has at 6'5", 230. And he's going to South Carolina. He had good things to say about Shane Beamer and their recruitment of him, which, hey, great, good for them. He was photographed in the number 7 jersey over there for the Gamecocks. If you remember that was the number that was worn by former super duper star Jadeveon Clowney when he was in Columbia. So I don't know if that hints to what they want to do with him, or anything, but maybe they're just like, hey, we had a superstar number 1 recruit who wore this number, a generation of football players ago. So we're passing that generational number on to you, generational player in this class. But yeah, Nick Harbor can play anywhere. If they want to play him at 3-4 outside backer who drops into coverage and also rushes the pass, if they want to put him at the edge, put his hand in the dirt and just go upfield. If they want to put him on offense and play him at, wide receiver or tight end, because again, this kid has all the speed that you want. He's in terms of Miami, if you're talking about Ray McLeod and not Ray McLeod, excuse me, Ray Joseph and Robbie Washington. I don't get all my names wrong, but Robbie Washington, the twin brother, and then Ray Joseph having all kinds of speed. This kid is 7 inches taller, 60 pounds heavier, and faster, literally. Like, he's a freak show. So, that's a real good get. Miami, he was not coming to Miami, guys. Recently when he kept saying, oh, Miami is finalist, I was quick to tweet. I said, he never took an official visit here. Like, that's a foundational recruiting rule for me. And I know it's going back to, 5-6 cycles ago when I wrote that in 2018, but it said file the visits for a major out-of-state star. You had to have an unofficial and official at least. The kid came down on his own dime for an unofficial visit. He never came back again. What are we talking about here? Right? Everyone's like, oh, well, Trevante Citizen committed without visiting. Oh, you want to talk about all the different parts and pieces of the Trevante Citizen situation? Sure, fine. He's from Louisiana, so he's out of state. Okay, he'd come down on a 7-on-7 trip that same weekend a year and a half ago for Miami Battle. So he had been down, right? He was an SEC recruit. He was being recruited by Ole Miss and by LSU. So he had familiarity with those coaches. He committed to LSU, right? LSU underwent a coaching change, recruiter change, and one of his close recruiters from Ole Miss then goes where? Miami in Kevin Smith last cycle. And you get Mario Cristobal coming down to Miami. So they have undergone a coaching change as well. And several decommitments, a couple of injuries. And then you have Mario Cristobal at the last minute going around to the handful of guys that he thinks he can get and does. And again, you're leveraging a previous relationship with Kevin Smith coming over. I didn't even look at his offer list, but I'm pretty sure that Mario Cristobal had offered him a scholarship, even though he didn't even visit over there. But when you get down the list and you have 12 or 13 things that are in the scenario for something like that, it is not as simple as, oh, well, Trevante Citizen didn't take an official visit last year, so of course, like Nicholas Harper is going to come in with this year. And look, I get where you're coming from, and I get the, like, look, and these are like, I saw that said by people that I know and respect, in terms of their opinions and in terms of the world of recruiting. But like everything is not the same. And even though there was that one point of comparison of being like, oh, Citizen did not visit but signed with Miami, and Harbor did not visit, so he could potentially sign. True, but all of the other situations, all the other circumstances in that scenario were not the same. So focusing on that single issue, I think, was foolhardy. And yeah, I was just like, maybe Harbor really enjoyed his unofficial visit to Miami. Maybe Harbor really thought, hey, I could one day see myself being a Hurricane, but he did not take an official visit down here. And I was very firm in the fact that that was going to lead him elsewhere, and was proven true again about that. But yeah, when he did not take an official visit, Miami had a puncher's chance at best. And these are the kind of things that will happen. Now Miami did win, a bunch of elite recruits, top end guys. Now it was just at the early signing period because we didn't sign anybody now. But you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. And I know people are like, well, okay, you go back to the Cormani McLean saga. You lose that one. Nicholas Harbor. Everybody in America was recruiting this kid, guys. You lose that one. All right. Is it what I want? No. Is it understandable? Yes. But even if you take him off of the board, look at the group that Miami signed, look at the group or the work that was done by the entire staff in this recruiting cycle. Sure, the areas for improvement would be quarterback and wide receiver. Sure, fine. But if you look at what was done, this is really yeoman's work. And even losing out on a couple elite recruits like that, you look at a Francis Mauigoa, who everybody in America wanted. You look at a Samson Okunlola, who everybody in America wanted, right? You look at a Ruben Bain, who everybody in America wanted. And the list goes on. This is really, really a strong job by this staff to put together this entire class, even absent the cherry on top being Nicholas Harbor or Cormani McLean.
Talking Canes here on a Wednesday night, National Signing Day, and not much going on the recruiting front, but still leave those comments and questions because there are a few things brewing out there. We do want to hit on the continued search for an offensive coordinator, of course, and the ACC schedule was released on a Monday night as well. Falconer X is here in fine form as always. Appreciate the super sticker contribution.
Yes, sir.
And then also leading into this comment. Falconer X, always willing to put a spin on things. Will it be getting frosty in Coral Gables?
That's a reference to Scott Frost becoming Miami's offensive coordinator, in case anybody was wondering. It's possible. It's possible from a theoretical standpoint because, like, Scott Frost is not currently employed, and Miami is in the market for an offensive coordinator, a quarterback's coach, and a wide receivers coach. So you assume that it's going to be the OC/QB coach combo because that's the standard one, not the OC/wide receivers coach combo that we recently had. But again, I think that getting Frost speaks to a schematic and foundational change to the entire structure of the organization that I don't think that Mark Cristobal is willing to do at this point. I do not believe that he's going to have the paradigm change of going from the ground and pound that he wants to a spread type of offense, even with Scott Frost offenses running the ball at a 60-40 clip. I don't see it, guys. I said the same thing last week. I don't. And I was actually just, in the group chat with some of my friends today, and they were talking about, maybe the possibility of getting Dan Mullen to be the offensive coordinator. And that's a possibility because he doesn't have current employee either. But Miami has money. And I believe that pretty much anybody in the country is available. We've gotten people up off of their good jobs before. I know that after the fact, people talking about, Michigan and Josh Gaddis from last year. Josh Gaddis was employed at the University of Michigan. He was interviewing for head coaching jobs or going back there, and Miami went and said, okay, let's go. Pack your stuff. Come on down. Famously, I know it didn't work out. Miami did the same thing to Dan Enos to the point where Nick Saban is walking around by multiple reports, going around their football facility screaming, where the fuck is Dan Mullen? I'm sorry, where the fuck is Dan Enos? Before a staff meeting. And the little secretary had to tell him, he left in the middle of the night to go take the job at Miami. So we hired him up off of his good job somewhere else. Now, I know it didn't end up working. So let's not play the result. Let's look at the process, though. The last couple of guys were sitting in somebody else's chair, and we went to go get them. And this is even before the recommitment to football that we've seen with Dan Radakovich and the University of Miami administration-wise, Dan Radakovich being the athletic director, Mark Cristobal being the football coach, and the whole structural organizational restructuring that we've seen. So if you're only exclusively thinking Dan Mullen or Scott Frost because they don't have a job right now, I say open your brains and look elsewhere. Because with the exceptions of, maybe a Garrett Riley who, is at Clemson as of last week. Obviously, Lincoln Riley is a head coach and calling his own plays because he's, someone who really knows offense. I don't think that there's a coach that we cannot go get if we want. So, and I think that there are coaches out there that more closely fit the paradigm that Mark Cristobal employs and the scheme that he wants to run. I, again, believe that a shift towards something more Frost-like, because it's spread, but it's not air raid, Like, he will spread. Like, look back at those teams at UCF. Like, yeah, Mackenzie Milton did numbers and everything, but, look at that run game, Shout out to Gregory McCrae, one of my former Miramar Patriots students. Well, he wasn't my student, but a player from Miramar who was going to go to Navy, decided that the serviceman life was not for him. He goes down there, and he does pretty big numbers. But now, there's 2 and 3 and 4 guys who are having 700 yards a year, That is more emblematic from a alignment standpoint, as in spreading the field by where people stand to start a play. That is more towards what I would like to see. But they ran the hell out of the ball. And when you have one-on-ones, then they're going to run the hell out of the ball. They're going to run play action, and they're going to chuck it up there, and their wide receivers are going to win one-on-ones down the field. Or they're going to throw it short. Somebody's going to make somebody miss, and then they're going to run, and the band's already playing while they're at the 15-yard line because ain't nobody else around them. That's more like what I would like to see. But Mario Cristobal and I are two different people, and I don't believe that he's going to just change his mind about what he wants to run and how he wants to run it overnight. So of the options available, I think that Frost is most feasible, again, because he spreads you out to run the ball, but I still just don't see that fit happening. And also, I would just say, and again, I'm not reporting anything here. I'm not saying, oh, he's talked to yada, yada, yada. I would just say, with very, very few exceptions, anywhere in the college football world, even if they're employed, Miami can go and has gone to get them that person at whatever position on the coaching staff, including and especially offensive coordinator. So don't be surprised if that happens again.
So to your latter point, again, Miami was able to secure these individuals not from the likes of Arkansas State and Georgia Southern, from Michigan and Alabama. Point number two, I think both your offensive approach and what you would prefer, not that you're an offensive coordinator, but what you would prefer, having watched football for a long, long time and covered it, and what Mario Cristobal prefers and implements and has in the past are both viable toward winning. However, I would side in your direction for the mere fact that the recruiting footprint could dictate the advantage going to Miami's side if they would open things up.
I mean, like, it's the first thing that any of us did in any of the college football video games is you go to Miami and you say, cool, we're not going to go I formation. We're going to go spread. And everybody down here does that. Again, with the exception of the few schools who are not as talented, they're going to run wing T, you know? And I mean, there were some that were very talented and then they won championships, you know, Lakeland. They famously ran, you know, wing T or, you know, option football. But they had all the, I mean, and this is back in the Bill Castle era. And they had some of the best championship teams. They beat Aquinas. I mean, they had like, what, 4 state championships in a row between Lakeland and Aquinas? And those were, woo, boy, if you can go find those on YouTube, you want to see some of the best high school football ever. Go watch. It was like the late or the early 2000s series between Lakeland Senior High School and St. Thomas Aquinas. And this is when Aquinas was becoming Aquinas. But the hurdle they had to get over to become Aquinas like they are now was the Lakeland Dreadnoughts. Look, I saw Matt Elam at Palm Beach Gardens star at linebacker and running back against Deerfield Beach, my first year teaching. This is 2005. They ran the ball 73 times and threw it once on play action for an 80-yard touchdown. Right? But like they had all Matt Elam, like the safety who went to Florida and played in the league. That Matt Elam was the star of that team. So they had talent, but they're not chucking it around the yard. So like with very few exceptions though, and this is again 16 years ago, right? 18 years ago, actually, at this point. Most everybody runs a version of spread. If you look at Aquinas, you know, they're going to, you know, they run spread to run more than spread to throw, but they've had some decent trigger guys, you know, because they're Aquinas and they recruit now, you know, and, you know, they win, but they get a lead and then they ground and pound you, but they're better than you. So, okay, cool. If you look at Miami Central, they're running a version of spread. Ice Harris at Booker T made a name for himself going spread with his son and another son and some other guys at quarterback, you know, and running up the score on guys. Look, you don't got to go far, you know. Miramar in 2009 when, you know, they won state championship and then got back in 2011 running spread. And it really kicked off because, you know, Gino was gone and the guy who was going to be quarterback, that didn't work out. So in transfers Ryan Williams from American Heritage before American Heritage was American Heritage like that. And he leads them to a state championship before he goes to Miami. He was going to be the starting quarterback, but then he tore his knee up and that opened the door for Brad Kaya, you know. But look, Chaminade run spread. I mean, like all these, they run spread. Look at 7-on-7. I just saw the top 10 7-on-7 team list, right? Number 2 in the country, South Florida Express. I still think that they're number 1, but Tucson Turf won the Battle of Miami. So, okay, cool. They're up at the top. So them, Florida Fire, Raw, and Immortals all down here in the top 10 of the 7-on-7 teams in the 7-on-7 world. Bro, it's not rocket science. It's really not. But, hey, they want to do things a little bit differently, obviously. But we'll see.
As noted in the chat, and I went investigating myself. Let's give this a look. So on Wikipedia, someone has added, not that Wikipedia is flawless by any stretch of the imagination, but
you can see it on the internet, it's true.
Added to Scott Frost's profile on Wikipedia that he is the offensive coordinator at the University of Miami.
Okay.
That has not been added to the other, parts and portions of the bio where you see, current job and so forth. But that's there.
I mean, and like, look, he, it just, with the quick refresher there and everything, he was the coordinator at Oregon when my guy Marcus Mariota won that Heisman Trophy, and really started digging into the X's and O's and everything. There was a couple of good Oregon websites that popped up, and they did a bunch of different stuff. I actually pulled from a couple of those websites for some content that I wrote back then. Like, hey, if you want to take that offense and plop it down in Coral Gables, yep, I would enjoy such things. That would make me happy. But I don't know.
Again, I believe they can win with Mario Cristobal as the head coach and running an offense. And when I say win, I'm not going to really specify to what degree. What's that?
I just said, win, if you want to classify that as being better than 5-7, maybe a plus record, not, under 500, but over at least.
But I just think it would be to their advantage to, it's hard to win in major college football, but you can make it harder on yourself, or you could make it easier on yourself.
And we found the hard path every single time. But again, I will say, my one always positive takeaway from a Manny Diaz coached team. Yes, I'm going back. Danny Miaz. His teams never quit, bro. Those teams never quit. He always, it took multiple years. He was always talking about, we're trying to win. We're trying to figure out how to win. We're trying to learn how to win. We're trying to learn how to win. We're trying to learn how to win. But they never, ever quit. And there's something to be said for that. It's like, while I've been doing other things, I've been re-watching The Wire for the umpteenth time. And when the corner kids, spoiler alert to The Wire, right? So the kids from the corner, they go to this gym that's being run by this former corner dude. And the first time they go sparring against these smaller, younger kids, the one kid, Justice, he's getting worked. But he doesn't go down. So the end of 3 minutes, he's in his guard and he's doing all this stuff. And this little kid is just wailing on him. Ding, goes over and says, hey, you can't, like, anybody who makes it all the way through a round can't make fun of him, right? They stuck it out and, like, he was getting mollywopped. Like, he never quit, right? That's an admirable trait. And I'll say that was probably the biggest and best admirable trait of a Manny Diaz. Sorry, Manny Diaz. Jesus. Yeah, Manny Diaz. Like, see, we've been saying it the wrong way so long. I thought I said it wrong. A Manny Diaz coach team. And while the coaches still have the stick-to-itiveness to continue down this path, of rebuilding, knowing where we are and where we want to go. And it's not even about this game. It's about 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Last year, you know what I mean? I would like to see some of that fortitude, on the field from this team as well.
And I think it's especially admirable in this sport because sports are by nature, by definition, high effort. It's a high effort activity. Obviously, sports athletics, you need to be, intensely active, of course. Football, though, is to another degree for the most part. We can have all sorts of arguments about the cardio involved in soccer, basketball, etc. But just the grind of football and the violent nature of football, to not give up when you're losing by 2 or 3 scores in the fourth quarter is admirable in and of itself. And so to be a leader of 18 to 22-year-olds who show that quality, I don't know what that goes back to, because everything I know about Manny Diaz is that he was a player's coach in kind of a negative connotation.
Right.
Considered that. Well, you wouldn't think that those players would out of fear or out of fear. We could name other coaches where we would think that they would demand that out of their players, and they would run through a brick wall, maybe out of negative motivation. But Manny Diaz did not have he had a disappointing run at Miami, and it did not meet expectations, did not progress the program to what he inherited, but it was not a disaster by any stretch.
Right. And I think that, we upgraded. And of course, we're rebuilding the entire organization. So but I was always impressed by, not by ruling with an iron fist either, because he definitely did not do that. But those teams never quit. So I just did want to say shout out to that. I don't know why, but I did. Just quickly, Tim Prangley did say in the chat that Jaden Rashada ends up at Arizona State with his commitment today, which is true. A very circuitous recruitment, I said on Twitter, to say the least. It's funny to me, though, that every school that he committed to was his dream school. So, we had all these background stories and recruiting things, but, I was a Miami fan for my entire life. And, my dad, was a fan of Miami and blah, blah. And I was so, blessed to be able to walk that path and do that. And then, just a, really respected, Florida through the, Urban Meyer time. And it was a dream school and everything, and going there and, following like a guy like Tim Tebow and Kyle Trask. It's a dream come true. And then, Arizona State's a dream school. My childhood dream school is what he said, which is the same, different, I don't know, than the dream school that he said that Miami and Florida respectively each were as well. His father did play at Arizona State. So he's saying, carrying on some of the tradition in there and everything. But it's just funny to me that every single place is, my dream school since forever. And you're committed to 3 different schools, and, famously Florida famously outbid themselves in terms of trying to give you money on the side through the name, image and likeness, collective group. So I'm not saying it was illegal, but they bid against themselves. So he's like, cool, like we're going to run the price up, and everything. And then he ends up in Tempe. So I know that socially he will have an incredible experience at Arizona State University. And again, Tim, yes, his dad is an ex-ASU player, but that makes it even funnier then that he was not considering them at all and said that Miami was his dream school, full stop. And then Florida was his dream school, full stop. And then now all of a sudden Arizona State is his childhood dream school, which again is a different classification that he put on the type of dream school that it is. Not saying it because of me. I'm saying this is what the kid said and was verified and reported by other people. So you can go look it up. But good on him. Good for them. That's a good get for Kenny Dillingham going back to Tempe, where, like I said, he's going to have a wonderful social experience, if nothing else, going to that fine institution of higher learning. And onward, forward we go.
We also have Falcon Rex coming back, asking us our top 3 OC candidates that nobody is talking about.
Okay.
I am rarely good at this, but I will try to add in on this.
Who was the coach at North Texas who just got fired? Seth Littrell.
Seth Littrell, yeah.
So, I mean, now if you're looking for explosive plays on offense, I looked it up. Like his team Actually, it's still open on my super secret spreadsheet. Was number 1 in isolated points per possession, number 1 in marginal explosiveness, and number 16 in explosive play rate last year. Look, I have twice now written about the fact that Miami had no explosive plays on offense, and then you go and get the guy who directed the most explosive offense in America, even more than USC, right? That would be a change, but he runs air raid. So, there's that. Apart from that,
Chip Lindsey, North Carolina.
Chip Lindsey, who slides into that position after Phil Longo went to Wisconsin with, I can see Luke Fickell up there. So, yeah, maybe Chip Lindsey. And again, like you can go get people up off of jobs. We've demonstrated that repeatedly. So maybe there's that. We did kick the tires on the guy from Washington, Grubbs. It was reported that he interviewed and was most closely connected to Alabama and turned them down. But it was reported by a couple of people that we did kick the tires on him. So there's that. I mean, maybe somebody from the Tennessee staff. Obviously, Golesh went and got a head coaching job, at USF. So he's not the guy, because you're not going to get a head coach up off of their job, especially a first-time head coach at like 38 years old. So, I mean, there's that. Some people said David Yost, but I don't know if he was like viable at this point in time. I know that his name had come up previously in other offensive coordinator searches that we'd written about in Miami. Yeah. So, I mean, guys like those and others maybe, but yeah, that's really kind of just pulling a name out of a hat type of a thing.
Here may be a guy that would be able to provide some nuance to the current offense, but still somewhat align with Mario Cristobal, and that would be Todd Monken.
Yeah, but he's looking at NFL jobs. I think that he's going that. Now, I mean, again, you could go get somebody up off their job at Georgia. You did it with Jamil Adai just a year ago. So after winning a national championship, you went and got him off their staff. But yeah, it looks like Monken is really strongly trending towards going back to the league. So I mean, yeah, I just don't see that for those reasons.
Mike Elko, who I'm a big fan of based on his 1 year at Duke. We'll see what lies ahead, but transformed them from losing 17 of 18 in the ACC to a 9-14 that won a bowl game. Obviously, he's focused on the defensive side of the ball. That's his calling card. I wonder who is Duke's offensive coordinator. I don't know off the top of my head. Kevin Johns. I don't know. I know.
Oh yeah,
name.
Kevin Johns. He was at Memphis before. He's a guy that we wrote about in the past, I believe. I think he was the guy from Memphis. I believe that Justin DeTavio on our website wrote about him previously. But I mean, there's guys out there like Jesus, the guy who was at Oklahoma State and went back to Rutgers, Sean something. He was at Princeton before years ago. But yeah, DeTavio wrote about him when he was still at Princeton, and people were like, "Oh yeah, no, this small time stuff." Da, da, da. He went to Oklahoma State. They did numbers, and then he got a new job back home at Rutgers because he's from the New Jersey area. So he's working at Princeton. Kind of, I think he went to Princeton or Rutgers, did that kind of thing. Went and did a good job somewhere else for a couple years, and then went over to Rutgers. But yeah, you can find people from lots of different places. So you can get them up off their good job, that's a lateral move, or you can dig down and then bring somebody up to a bigger job. I just hope that it works better than like Blake Baker at defensive coordinator, who low key is doing a really good job at LSU, bro. Like, as their linebackers coach, Harold Perkins.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, he might not be running the show or anything, but the job he's doing, pretty darn good.
The Arizona offensive coordinator is Brennan Carroll, and I don't know anything about him. I just know that Arizona has taken off
Brendan
offensively.
Carroll, Pete Carroll's son, and he twice worked at Miami. I believe he was wide receivers coach and he was a grad assistant here prior to that, and everything. So he was here Al Golden-ish tenure, and whatnot. It's funny because he doesn't tweet much, but it pops up, and I try to follow all the staff members. I'm like, why am I following Brent? Oh, right, because he worked here at the time. So there is a hurricane connection there if we wanted to try to leverage that, but they're doing a really nice job over there as well.
I don't know if it's a concern, but it is an interesting dynamic when you take a former head coach and put them in a coordinator position, especially when said head coach led a huge program. Like they weren't a head coach at a G5. They were the head coach at Nebraska or the head coach at Florida, and now they're subservient to a head coach.
Yeah, but I mean, like those guys were, now I would say it would be easier maybe for Frost than Mullen because his head coaching tenure was shorter. So he's more closely connected to his assistant days. And in terms of just chronology, like he's younger. So if he's trying to get back to a big chair somewhere, it would be more of an incentive for Frost to come and sit second chair and then, kind of go to the Mario Cristobal satellite campus of the Nick Saban School for Wayward Coaches and, then continue up to get a head coaching job somewhere else. So, I mean, but hey, look, Jimbo Fisher just brought in Bobby Petrino in the same exact way, to be the offensive coordinator. And like, this is a guy who is, like Bobby Petrino and everything that he's done and been. And like, you bring that fox in your hen house, like, and expect there not to be a coup attempt or something else. And again, like Jimbo's pocket's going to be straight because that buyout is guaranteed. Like his contract is fully guaranteed. So whether it's probably less than the 95 that it was. So it's probably 86 and a half, now over whatever. Like, yeah, he's going to get his money, but you bring in Bobby Petrino in a similar kind of a way. So, hey, look, I don't know that it's going to work, but it's been done in many a place because there's only so many head coaching seats in the world of college football, even with as many coaches that there are.
Yeah, Petrino brings a whole potential list of concerns.
Oh, yeah.
Mullen, with Mullen, it's more like I would understand Dan Mullen. Certainly nobody's holding a gun to his head. He would accept the job and take it on as offensive coordinator, but kind of be comparing himself to the head coach because he did not have an unsuccessful run at Florida. He basically had a bad season and some strange occurrences.
Debatable.
He took over like a 4-win team and elevated them. New Year's Six Bowl, New Year's Six Bowl, New Year's Six Bowl, 3 consecutive. Yeah, 3 consecutive New Year's Six Bowl. Has one bad season, and then he's gone.
Yeah, but recruiting wasn't where it
a healthy run at Mississippi State. I'm just talking about the mindset of somebody like that, thinking I'm probably better than this guy I'm coaching for.
Bobby Petrino was actually doing good things at Arkansas until
absolutely. Yeah.
Motorcycle skidded,
two
like
top 10 finishes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but you can look at the same thing, elsewhere. But yeah, it would be interesting. Dirty Kane thing saying Dan Mullen, no thanks. Hey, okay. Like I get it. I completely and totally get it. But also I just want to throw out there that we have, and Chris Mitchell, I was just going to get to that point. Mullen hates recruiting. That's a foundational act in a Mario Cristobal program. You like Bud Elliott when he was talking about the Miami class on CBS Sports HQ today, I believe is what it's called. And said, yeah, like Mario Cristobal works tirelessly at recruiting, and he makes and requires his staff work tirelessly in recruiting. And then you have Chris Mitchell's comment about Mullen hating recruiting. Water and oil, they do not mix. You might shake it up and make a nice little vinaigrette for a time, but those will separate. Like, never will the twain meet. So, yeah, that right there is my biggest thing. If you're not going to love recruiting, if you're not going to be all in on talent acquisition, along with, the coaching and developing and retention and all the, but if you're not going to be 10 toes down and out there all the time in the world of recruiting, you're not going to work for Mario Cristobal. And I think that more than anything is the thing that would be the issue that would keep the two apart.
I don't pretend to know, and I'm not just trying to be the contrarian here, but I think sometimes these reputations are kind of molded out there, and then they kind of take off, and really 95% of the people that believe what they believe out there only believe it because that's what everybody else is saying. Dan Mullen's 3 full cycles at Florida produced number 9, 7, and 12 in recruiting. Wasn't awful.
Right. But like they did have a big, they had a couple really strong recruiters on staff. They also had a very strong recruiting department, including a couple of guys from South Florida. So they're leaning on some of those connections, and some of those people have moved on to other, jobs or rung, up on the ladder just on the recruiting side at other places. One of them works at Louisville now in that recruiting department, and you see what they're doing down here in South Florida, leveraging some of those connections. So yeah, but like he did it. I'm not saying that he's not gonna. It's not like 100 or 0. You know what I mean? In terms of what he did, but like, could he have done more? Yes. If you talk to Florida fans, they would have wanted him to do more personally and directing his group to even do more. Again, with the classes that we're seeing, that was part of the issue. Is like, yeah, that's good, but again, that's going to be what, 4th or 5th in the SEC. You're going to be behind Alabama, Georgia, probably LSU. You know what I mean? And maybe Ole Miss in some of those. Like, that's fine. But if you're the University of Florida and they desire to be like at the top of things, and they're not, then you're like, again, you're starting to look like Mark Richt, where 9-3 with a number 9 recruiting class is good, but good is not good enough. You know what I mean? And I think that that's where we're talking about.
Absolutely. A number of people in the chat encouraging everyone to hit the like button. It's a simple thing to do. Please hit the like button. That pushes the videos out into traffic even more. YouTube's got its set of algorithms that equal, hey, tons of comments, we're going to push the video. Likes, we're going to push the video. So we want to build the audience, of course, both the live audience and the audience that comes in during the course of the week to check out this edition each and every Wednesday. So the other thing you can do is share this video out on social media. Just flat out the people you text, the people you're connected to on Facebook and on Twitter and such. Let them know that we're here every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern time, and invite them into the show. And keep in mind that Cam pulls himself away from all his responsibilities at work and running a major website to give us an hour plus. And as I often explain, way beyond the time commitment is the insight, the information, the knowledge, the storytelling, all put together. So please appreciate that. All right, let's check out the release of the ACC schedule that came out on Monday night, and we actually did a live show and took your calls, so you can check that out. We've got that posted here on the Miami channel as well. Let me blow this up, and Miami's will be tangling in an unusual Friday night affair to open the season.
Yeah, so the first 4 games were known already, that being Miami, my alma mater, Orange and Green, versus Miami of Ohio, Texas A&M, Bethune-Cookman, and Temple, in that order in those weeks. Those were already previously announced and known, and everything. So the Miami game, the Miami Squared, no, scroll up. The Miami Squared game moved from Saturday to Friday. That was an update when they released the schedule. So that was new, because at the previous announcement, it was Saturday, but whatever, it's the same weekend, boom. But yeah, so you have that. Then the return of the home and home against Texas A&M a week earlier in the schedule this year. 2 weeks earlier, actually, because that was, no, 1 week. It was game 3, and then we had the Middle Tennessee week 4. So, yeah, a week earlier. But, again, that was already previously known, so that's a major non-conference game against a very talented team, right off the bat. And, hey, we talked about, Bobby Petrino coming in as their offensive coordinator already. To go along with Steve Adazio and DJ Durkin and Jimbo Fisher. So a lot of coaches with plenty of baggage in wearing those colors. But yeah, then we get the what would have been the Ed Reed Bowl, the Bethune-Cookman Wildcat beatdown on Thursday night. So we have 2 weekday games in the first 3 weeks. So if you look at that right there, we have 3 games in a 2-week time frame in 14 days. So I'll be interested to see what the injury situation will be looking like around that time, especially after having played Texas A&M, which is a big and physical team. And I believe there were some injuries that came out of that game last year. So kind of the residual hangover effect kind of a thing. Then we travel up to Philadelphia to play Temple, old Big East rivals, our former competitors, renewing that series. So we have that. This is where things started to be new from the announcements because, again, we just knew the first 4 games. I hate a week 5 bye week. And it's not listed in there as a bye. But if you scroll up there we go. So you see that September 30th week, there is no game. So, again, just like last year, you play 4, have a bye week, and then you got to run the last 8. I hate it. That was like literally one of 2 things that I wrote that I wanted to see from the schedule, or one of the structures I wanted to see was a later bye week. Even by a week, I think would have been okay. I said week 7 to 9 in the tweet that I put out, but like most everybody has theirs in weeks 5 through 8 in the ACC. But even if you put Miami's bye in week 7 and go 6 games off and then 6 games, that would be a better structure, I believe, than 4 weeks, a week off, and then run the last 2 months straight.
Of course, here's the perfect spot. Play North Carolina, then get the bye before Clemson.
Yep. That's what, or people say, if you move everything up and then, have it after Clemson. But yeah, if you play, you move up North Carolina to September the 30th and then drop that there. Now, obviously, I know that there's trickle down effects of that and, whatever. But yeah, that's what I would have liked to see, a later bye week than week 5, but whatever. So then we come off the bye, we play Georgia Tech at home, then first ACC road game at Carolina. And this run starting the week of Carolina will really define the season, I think. So you have at Carolina, home against Clemson for the first time in Hard Rock Stadium since they got Al Golden fired in 2015. That was 58-0, the worst loss in the history of the program. From a statistical or from a scoreline standpoint, you can technically argue that there have been worse, but whatever. After that, you have Virginia, who is probably the trap game in this because, like, going from Clemson to Virginia is definitely like a step down, but I don't want to overlook them. But yeah, North Carolina, that's been a major foe for a lot of years, and they've been, thorn in our side even last year. We were one of the teams that actually got to Drake May, during the run of the season before things kind of fell apart at the end there for him and for the performance of the Tar Heels offense, but whatever. So, Virginia after that. And then, that's 3 home games, 1 road game in October. And that's, that's doable for sure. They did Miami no favors in November. 3 of the final 4 are on the road. And it is what it is. It's not the hardest schedule in the world, but Miami makes even the simple schedules hard. So, but yeah, you wrap up the final month of the season, the moneymaker month at North Carolina State. That's going to be a tough place to play. MJ Morris is probably going to be their quarterback and have developed, a good bit from what we saw this past year as a true freshman. but he has all the talent in the world, that kid. And then you go on Veterans Day up to Tallahassee to go play Florida State. Obviously, a rivalry game. Obviously, we got our doors blown off last year. So we're looking to rectify that situation and take a step forward and beat them. Then you return home to play. And actually, I just figured this out as I was talking. They saved the tent poles, the annual opponents for Miami, for the last 3 weeks of the season. So at Florida State, Louisville, who's a new tentpole team in the 3-5-5 schedule formation, they're coming down here. And again, Louisville's done a decent job recruiting in South Florida for 15, 20 years. So, they're very happy about having Miami as one of their tentpole teams, because that even gives them the chance to say, yeah, no, you're going to play, if you come north to Louisville from South Florida as a recruit, you're going to play at home twice in 4 years, maybe 3 times in 5, depending on your cycle of schooling or whatever and eligibility. And then on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, we end the season in Chestnut Hill at Boston College. Again, that's a tentpole team, an old Big East team that is one of our 3 foundational opponents every single year. The day after Thanksgiving, which is, we know, in 2017, is where the undefeated season went to die at Pittsburgh on that same day after Thanksgiving. So a good home schedule of teams for sure. You get Texas A&M, you get Clemson, and you get Louisville on top of, the other teams. But those are 3 pretty good tickets that you would want. And then on the road, you go twice to North Carolina with Carolina and NC State. Both of those are, good teams. And then just with your every year rotation, you're at Florida State. And then I don't know, it's going to be next year, but I don't remember the last time that Boston College played in Miami. I really honestly don't. It's been, every time we play them, it's up there.
The Doug Flutie game, maybe.
No. It might be. Honestly, it's been, and usually, I know things like that, especially about the Miami schedule. I can be like, oh, yeah, I don't remember the last time we played them down here. I really, honestly, and truly don't. It's been a long time.
That's the game that came to mind when I saw the date of the Black Friday, because that was a Black Friday game, the Flutie Hail Mary. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I learned something new today.
And also, I just looked it up, Cam, the average temperature in Boston in November, and of course, this is going to be late in November, so you got to think that this is generally a November 15th read, and this is a week and a half later, 52 for a high, 38 for a low.
Yeah. So
it could be, it obviously is higher than that sometimes and lower. So if Miami doesn't catch a break, it could be 35 degrees.
Yeah. And that's something that this team has struggled with in the past, is going and playing in colder temperatures. So thanks for that. But yeah, so
I'm curious as to whether going forward, whether the ACC is seeing this Boston College game as a game that they're going to schedule like they did with Pitt year after year after year. And then it was Duke for some reason. So I don't know what played into that. But most conferences try to match rivalries on the final weekend. Miami, because they play Florida State earlier, and Florida State's got their game against Florida, has just kind of been in no man's land, like some other teams in the ACC for that final weekend. And just to know if the ACC is intending on that being the game on the final weekend, or just happened to sit that way this year.
I guess we'll have to see in the future. But that is an interesting thought. To put, one of the tentpole teams there. But yeah, it'll be interesting. They were NCAA. The ACC was very cautious to say that this is 3-5-5. So you have 5 on, and then 5 minus 3 team schedule is odd. Yeah, we talked about this. I don't agree with it at all. But whatever. But you play your 3 tentpole teams, and then 5 of the remaining 10 teams, and you play those. It's not every other year. they said it on the broadcast, and Jordan Cornette was what they wrote was very specific. So you'll play them twice in 4 years.
Okay.
And when I was doing my early run through the 3-5-5, when they were saying, okay, they put it out, last year, and I did real quick, and I was like, this is not just 5 on, 5 off, 5 on, 5 off. It's not. Like, there are some who's like, you play them in year 1 and year 4. There was a couple who was like year 1 and 2, and then a couple 2, 3, and then it was like, it was all over the place. It was not a straight 5. You're going to play these 5 non-core teams this year, and then you're going to play the other 5 non-core teams next year, and then the first round comes back in year 3, and the second round comes back in year 4. That was not what was put on paper or on the internet from the ACC. So, and they didn't highlight it, but they spoke to, and I was paying attention for it because I remember when I said that, and I remember you were like, wait, no, it's supposed to, and I was like, I looked, I don't remember which team it was, but there was a couple that it didn't fit, on, off. And so I was specifically listening for that. They did say, yeah, so you'll play the other, of the other 10 teams, you'll play them twice in 4 years. And that's it. So it could be years 1 and 2, years 3 and 4, year 1 and 4, but in the 4-year cycle, it will be twice. And that seems to be the foundation going forward. So yeah, just was listening out for that. And, to Falcon Rex's point, why is Louisville a tentpole team? Virginia Tech is better. I think Virginia Tech is definitely a better fit for Miami as a tentpole team, foundational core member, whatever you want to say. I think that Virginia Tech is better than both Boston College and Louisville in terms of connection and fit with Miami, especially after what we've seen in the last 20 years, right? But to Mark's point, like, to make it a thing with Boston College, you're going back 20 and 30 years. You're like, okay, we're going to just, we're going back into the, annals of history. Excuse me, and that's fine, I guess, but yeah. And Louisville's newish in the ACC still. And so they're like, well, we're going to do some things. And I would not be surprised if Louisville behind the scenes was really strongly advocating for Miami because, like I said, they've done good recruiting down here for years and look to do that continuing. Say, hey, if we can get them as one of our tentpole teams, that will even help us further because you're playing there, again, twice in 4 years or 3 times in 5, and we can sell that to our kids. And you're going to play against them in the other years. So that's still going to be on television. So even if your parents don't want to come up to Louisville, they can still watch it in the local market. And look, everybody know, we can still have a recruiting weekend down at Hard Rock. Look, we'll say, still use all the telephonic communications with the recruits. Say, cool, come to the game. I don't care if you're in the Miami section. Go, great, have a good time. Just be sure that you're checking out the Cardinals. Be sure you're looking out at us over there in our red and white. And we're going to hit you up before the game and after the game. And even if you're there for them, you're going to see us put on a show. And just know that you can still fit with the Louisville Cardinals. It would not at all surprise me if they advocated strongly to get Miami as one of their 3 tentpole teams for that very reason.
Miami last played and defeated Boston College at home in 2006. That's how long it's been. They've played. Yeah, I didn't count up all the other times that they had been to Boston College, but it's about 5.
That's what I'm saying. We've been up there time after time after time after time. And like I said, I honestly couldn't remember. And so that's the same. So that was the subsequent football season from that earlier story I told about Matt Elam and Deerfield Beach in 2005. Bro, that's a long time. That's a long, long time. And we've been up to Chestnut Hill 3-4 times in between. But
that
again,
would have been Matt Ryan.
Yeah, it's still, this is another data point on the ACC does whatever and doesn't really take Miami into account. Because there's no reason that we've gone there 3 or 4 times, 3 or 4 or 5 times in the last 17 years, and they have not been here. And they're one of our tent poles, and now we're going. So now you see, we're going to have. I mean, it was always going to be an odd number, but it's going to be. I guess they wanted to split for ticket sales, Louisville and Florida State. in terms of home and away. And I mean, those are probably the two better teams of the three. And then you kind of had to put Boston College or wherever. But, hey, good old ACC says, well, we could give them a home game, but then that would be 8. And we don't want to put them on the road at Florida State and at Louisville the same year. So let's just put them up in Boston College again for the 17th time in a row, the day after Thanksgiving. Cool. Like that just strikes me as oh shit, we didn't do okay, here, figured out. Like that was the random happenstance at the last second solution to the issue. So it's yet another consecutive trip to Chestnut Hill for Miami, which, I mean, and again, I'm not saying this is the hardest game in the world because it's not. It's just annoying.
Marcus, if you missed the point in the conversation, yes, Duke Johnson and Miami did defeat Boston College in 2012, but that game was at Boston College.
Right, exactly. I said we haven't played them. We have not played them in whatever Joe Robbie pro player Hard Rock Stadium since 2006.
I am going to attempt to, because every fan base can take their shot at the schedule, and especially when there's a designation of 3 primary opponents / 10 polls, and without the understanding that it all has to work. Everything has to work throughout the schedule. So whatever perfect fits that you come up with for your team have ramifications elsewhere. But I'm gonna look this over and see if I can rework it where it's a little bit better. Maybe I can't. Because
obviously there's,
yeah, there are ramifications
for moving, like a game around or something. But I mean, it's
not the schedule itself, but these 10 polls. Like if I move Virginia Tech into Miami's column, then
okay.
I'm going to try to work the rest of it.
I forget. I worked it out. I thought we workshopped it before, but it was. I mean, but it's interesting. I saw people tweeting about it. It's going to feel weird not playing Virginia Tech every year. That was intentional when both Miami and Virginia Tech joined this conference. They said, we're going to put them in the same division so that they play every year because we'd had those games. James Hennessy, did we get that wrong? Did we miss that?
I screwed up. I missed it. Yes, final game of the season, 2011, Boston College, Miami. Boston College won 24-17.
Was that a Thanksgiving weekend game?
Yes.
Probably didn't even go to that one.
And that probably was on a Friday as well, because it was 6 days after the previous week. Yes, that would have been on a Friday as well. And Miami went 6-6 and did not go to a bowl game in 2011. It's kind of strange. They were 6-5 and were upset by a 3-8 Boston College team the last day of the season.
That was about right.
So sorry, James. Yeah, I did miss that.
Okay.
Shuttling through, but it's still like a 4-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
All right, folks, thanks so much for making this happen each and every Wednesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Cam Underwood, State of the U, making things work for us each and every week. It's a great show because of Cam's insight, knowledge, information, storytelling, and everything else. Join him on State of the U.
Yeah, I was just looking over at the piano because I forgot that I'd left my highlighters over there, which haven't moved in 3 months, but hey, I don't know why I caught my attention right then, but it did. But yeah, thanks for watching. Be sure that you like and subscribe, and come on over and fan with us. StateOfTheU.com, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The State of the U. My personal Twitter account is at Underwood Sports, as you see on the screen right there. Working our way through basketball season. Miami Hurricanes are 18-5 at this point. Should be about 19-3, but collapsed. I mean, a couple of the worst losses you'll see anywhere in the country this year, unfortunately, are kind of depressing the record just a little bit. But we're going through that. Talked about the schedule, had the release of that, evaluated the previous performance against next year's opponents, or most recent performances, I want to say, against each of the opponents that we're facing next year, and things like that. So. And have plenty more coming for you. So, again, we appreciate you watching this show and would appreciate you coming on over and seeing what else I and the group of contributing writers have for you at stateoftheve.com. And I'll see you when I see you.
Cam and I may take a week off. We shall see when that happens. But again, this is what you do. You just subscribe and hit the bell for the notifications to know when we go live. I post the live schedule each and every day on the main channel, so you know what the deal is. Cam, always appreciated, man.
Likewise, my friend. We'll see you soon.